Hi everyone, welcome to section 5 for Access for ECDL. This is going to be a very short video. We're just going to look at two things in this video. This is a section for sorting and filtering. So those are the only two things we're going to be doing in this exercise and in this chapter. So we'll look at sorting first of all, and then we'll move on to filtering. Sorting is something that we've already done to a certain extent in Microsoft Excel. We sorted a table, or we sorted a section of the table, which is essentially what a worksheet is. It's a big table, and we saw that we could sort alphabetically and chronologically, and we did the same with tables in Word as well. So sorting is something that hopefully you're going to be familiar with, and you'll hopefully remember the concept of it and how to do it from those two programs. If you don't worry, because we're going to take it from scratch again anyway for Access. And then filtering is it's used to kind of select specific records from a large table. So let's say you had a table of 1,000 records, you might only want to get a certain subset of those records out. So it's pretty easy to do. It's maybe the more fiddly of the two things that we're going to look at in this video, but it's easy enough to do. So we'll begin with sorting records. Okay, let's jump right in with sorting, and we need to open a database, obviously, and we need to have some data to work on. So I'm going to open up the staff or staff1 database, which, as we've seen from previous videos, only contains two tables, courses and staff. I'm going to open the staff table by double left clicking on it, and don't forget, when you open a database, none of the objects are open by default. You have to double click on the object that you want to open or run, and in this case I've double clicked on staff, and the staff table is now being displayed here in the main view window. It's got 13 records I can see down here, and it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 fields or 9 columns. So this is like a typical, database maybe for staff employee, or rather for employee details, surname, first name, and so on and so forth. So let's look at how to sort. It's easy enough. I'm going to click anywhere at all in the surname column or field. It doesn't matter where I click. You don't need to select the entire column. You can if you want, but you don't need to. So I'm going to click anywhere at all in the surname column or field. And then I'm going to go up and look for my sorting button. Now you'll find it in the sort and filter group, which is on the home tab. And we've got an ascending and a descending option for that. So if I click on ascending, you should see that the table, all the details have now been moved around, and we're sorting from A to Z. So we're starting with Chamberlain and it's going all the way down to Valdron. I can reverse that and I can click on descending. Now it's starting with Valdron and now it's going all the way down to Chamberlain. So that's all there is to it. That's all there is to sorting something from alphabetically from A to Z. Now we can also sort numbers, and we can sort them in order of largest to smallest or smallest to largest. Let's have a look at salary. If I click in the salary field, again, anywhere in the salary column on any one of the records, it doesn't matter. I'm going to click on ascending. So in terms of ascending for numbers, that will be starting with the smallest and then ascending towards the biggest. So you can see that it's gone all the way up. And if I click on descending, it's going to go from descending from the largest down to the smallest. Similarly for dates, if I go from ascending, it's going to go from the earliest date, which I can see here is the 25th of January 1985, all the way up to 29th of the 3rd, 2020. I forgot to put in an NI number for this employee from a previous example, but it doesn't matter. And I can also go from descending. I can start from the earliest, or rather from the most recent date, and go all the way back to the earliest date. So that's really all there is to sorting. I can remove a sort as well, like that. And what that does is it just puts the table back to the state that it was in. Okay, there's no sorting been done now in this table at all. That's all there is to it. Now, something that you do need to be aware of, I'm going to sort it again via surname. Okay, if I now go to close this table, and if I don't save it, so notice Chamberlain is at the start now that I've sorted it. If I don't save it and I open it back up, the sort is gone. Okay, the sort is gone. So what I need to do there is I need to save the table before I close it. So I've sorted it again on surname by clicking on ascending. I'm going to close the table. This time I'll say yes, I do want to save the changes. And when I open it back up, it's still sorted by that one column. Alright, so watch out for that. I'm going to remove the sort, and that, believe it or not, is all there is to sorting. It's very, very easy. Don't forget that you can sort via A to Z or Z to A, and ascending and descending, and you can sort from smallest to largest or largest to smallest. That would be chronological then for something like date or time. It would be the earliest to the latest or the latest to the earliest. And then for things like numbers, like salaries and stuff, that would be smallest to largest and largest to smallest. But it's the same for both the numbers, okay? So that's all there is to sorting. In the next section, we will look at how to use filters. In this section, I'm going to show you how to use filters, how to apply filters to a table. It's not the second thing that we need to do in this chapter, and then we're done. So it's a short chapter. So we've already looked at sorting, how to sort a table based on a particular column, either from A to Z or Z to A, or from largest to smallest or smallest to largest if it's a number, or earliest to latest and latest to earlier, if it's a date field or a time field. Now we're going to look at how to use filters. What is a filter? As I mentioned in the introduction, we might use a filter to select only specific records from a table. Imagine if we had a table with, I don't know, let's say 1,000 records, like a pretty big table. We might only want to display a certain subset or a certain selection of those records based on some criteria that we might have. So that's the key word there. Once we apply that criteria and apply a filter to that table, then only the records that fit that criteria will actually be shown in the table. The other data is still there, all the other records are still in the table, they're just not being displayed. And then we could save or sort that filter table if we wanted to. So it's very, very useful for filtering out information that we don't want and only displaying information or records that we do want. In principle, it's going to be very similar as well to when we start looking at queries in terms of applying criteria and only extracting certain information or certain records from a table, which is where the power of databases lies, in extracting only specific information from the table. So as you can see, I've opened up the Geography 1 database here, which you may remember from when we worked from it last, has got a country table and a regions table. We can ignore this form object here. We'll be looking at forms. That's the last chapter actually we'll be looking at, so we can ignore it for now. So I'm going to pretend that I want to display only countries that are in Europe, basically only countries in which, or records in which Europe is in the region field. So in other words, you know, in a high level way of saying it, I only want to display countries that are in Europe. So how would I do that? A couple of different ways of doing it. First of all, I'm going to find the first country in my table which is in Europe, and I can see here that it's Austria, which is obviously in Europe. So I'm going to click once in the region column, or in the region field, like this. And then I'm going to go up to the Sort and Filter group, which is on the Home tab, and I'm going to left click the selection tool, and you can see that I've got a couple of options here: equals Europe, does not equal Europe, contains Europe, does not contain Europe. So for text, it's always going to say equals, does not equal, contains, and does not contain, and then whatever the contents of the field are, or is, in this case Europe. So I want to filter out everything that doesn't contain Europe. So I'm going to say equals Europe, and as you can see, all other records are stripped out of the table, and I'm only being shown countries that are in Europe, or where Europe is in the region field. So easy enough to do. So that's all I did, was left clicked in any of the records that had Europe, go to selection, go to equals Europe, and that's it. Let's try and now sort the countries in Europe by their size of population, because don't forget, once you filter the table, you can still do what we did in the previous section, in the first section. We can sort it. So I'm going to sort them by population, and I'm going to sort them in terms of, let's say, ascending to descending. So I'm left clicking anywhere in the population field. It doesn't matter which record I click on, and I'm going to click on ascending, and that's it. I've now sorted the country table, and I filtered it only to display countries in Europe, and in terms of ascending population, starting with the smallest and going to the largest. Now what happens if I want to turn that filter off? If I want to get back the rest of my data, there is a toggle filter tool up in the Sort and Filter group. So if I left click once on toggle filter, you can see that everything is back to the way it was. Okay, and if I wanted to, I can also remove the sort as well. So I can do that too, clear all sorts. And now the table is just back to the way it was. Okay. It's also possible to select records excluding a certain criteria. So for this one, let's see, I'll go to the currency field here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click in a record that has euro for the currency. So Austria again, in fact. And I'm going to go up to selection again in the sort and filter group. And this time I'm going to say does not equal euro. In other words, I want to list all countries whose currency isn't euro. So it does not equal euro. So as you can see, any country that had euro as a currency has now been stripped out of the table. I'm only left with 37 records out of whatever number of them there were. I forget. Let's toggle the filter. Yeah, 47. So I've toggled out 10 of them. Okay, so I'm only being shown countries now that have any other currency that's not euro. So that's how we toggle stuff based on excluding a certain criteria. We want to exclude euro from that. That was our criteria, to exclude euro, but to include everything else. All right, and that's it. That's all there is to it. We could also, well, I'm going to toggle this filter now again to clear the filter, and then I'm going to clear, let's see, I'm going to go into the population field for France, because this, we can actually do a quite advanced filter. I'm going to click on selection again, so notice that I clicked in population for France, and I'm going to click on selection. Now, we've already seen text, but here's numbers. This is what happens when we go to try and do a filter selection on a number field. The population for France, we can see, is in as 55.9. That's obviously in millions. So when we click on selection for that, we can look for countries that equal exactly 55.9, don't equal 55.9, are less than or equal to 55.9, or are greater than or equal to 55.9. So let's look for countries that are greater than or equal to 55.9. In other words, that are greater than or equal to France's population. And again, everything is stripped out, apart from the ones that are obviously less than. Not equal to France, but less than France. So you can see Brazil, China, the big countries. So I'm going to toggle the filter again. I'll pick another one now. I'll go to, let's see, Austria. I'll go to toggle filter. And this time I'm going to click on, 7.7. I'm going to selection, and I'm going to say less than or equal to 7.7. So we probably won't have too many. Oh, well, we have a few. So we have a few countries that are less than or equal to Austria's population of 7.7 million. So those are your two types of filters that we can apply to text. We can apply, if I toggle the filter again, go back to region, this time I'll look for all countries that are in the Middle East. So I've clicked in the Middle East, and I've gone to selection, and I'm going to say equals Middle East. In other words, I want to look for all countries which have Middle East set for their region field. That's all there is to it. And then to turn off the filter, we simply toggle the filter. And then for numbers, what I can do is less than or equal to, or equals exactly if I want. So I'm going to left click on, let's see, Brazil this time, which is 154 million. I'm going to go to selection, and this time I want to say greater than or equal to 154. So I'm looking for countries with a population greater than 154 million. And I only get China, India, the USA, and Russia. So let's toggle the filter now. Let's clear the filter. We don't have any sort on it, so I don't need to click on remove sort. And I'm going to close this database without saving. And we're going to look at, in the next section, we're going to look at filtering by form, which is a slightly more advanced form of a filter. It allows us to create a more kind of complex filter. So I'm going to close the table. It's asking me, do I want to save the changes? And I'm going to say no. So I'll see you in the next section for what is known as filtering by form. In this section, we're going to look at filter by form, which is a more advanced method of applying filters. What we can do with filter by form is we can filter based on more than one field at the same time. In the previous example, we could only filter based on one field at a time, but there may come a time when you need to filter a table based on multiple fields or multiple criteria. So that's what we can do using filter by form. So let's see how it works in action. I'm going to open up the houses database. And it's got three tables: house details, houses, and location. I'm going to open up the houses table. So I've got 30 records here, town address, or sorry, town field or town column, address column, and so on and so forth. So instead of clicking on the filter button here up in sort and filter, I'm going to go up to the advanced tool, and it doesn't matter where I am when I click on the advanced tool, as you'll see in a second. I'm going to click on advanced and I'm going to select filter by form, and this new object is going to appear over here in the main view window. Now don't panic, the table is still there, but this time it's been replaced with a filter by form, essentially form. And as you can see, all of the fields from the table are listed here, but they're all blank. So Access is asking me, which fields, if any, do you want to sort by, or sorry, do you want to filter by? So I'm going to select, going from the example in the book here, I'm going to select the town of Cockermouth, awful name for a town. And in the type field, I'm going to select terraced house. So in other words, I'm looking for houses that are terraced houses that are in the town of Cockermouth. So how do we then apply that filter? Well, all we do is we click on toggle filter, and I can see that I have 4 houses in that town that are of the type terraced house. That's all there is to it. Okay, toggle filter again, and we turn the filter off. Okay, it's back to the way it was. The table is back to the way it was. I can also toggle filter again because the filter still exists, and I can go back to the filter that I had applied. So I'm going to go back to advanced, and now I'm going to clear all filters to get rid of the filter that I had applied. Toggle filter is now no longer available to me because I've selected advanced and I've selected clear all filters. So let's do another one. Let's go to advanced and filter by form, and this time I'm going to go to the price field. And what I could do is select one of these, the prices here. All of these prices are prices that are entered for the 30 houses that are in the record, or that are in the table. But more often than not, somebody might come into the estate agents and they might say, look, I'm interested in looking for a house. Maybe, do you have anything in the house that's, or anything in the record that's less than 30,000? So let's try that. Let's type in less than. That's our less than logo. If you remember from Excel, when we were doing greater than or less than in our if functions, we use those 2 logos. So it's kind of like an L pivoted on its side to kind of 15 degrees to the right. And that's what helps me remember it, because it's L less than, and then the other one obviously has to be greater than. So I've typed in less than, and I'm going to type in 30,000. Now I want to toggle that filter, I want to turn it on, and I can see that, yeah, I've got quite a few houses. I've got 16 houses that are less than 30,000. Toggle the filter again, it goes back to the way it was. The table is now unfiltered. Toggle filter again, it's only showing me the houses that are less than 30,000. I'm going to go to advanced. I'm going to go to filter by form, and this time I'll look for houses that are greater than 30,000. 3. And again, toggle filter, and I can see all of the houses here that are greater than 30,000. All right, some cheap houses. That's sorting it on that, but now what I want to do is I want to sort it on, or sorry, filter it not just on greater than 30,000, but let's see, let's pick another town. Let's pick Maryport and see if there are any houses greater than £30,000 and in the town of Maryport. And if I click on toggle filter, I get a blank, which means that there are no houses that fit that criteria. So let's go back to advanced, filter by form. Let's pick Drigg. Let's click on toggle filter again, and we can see that yes, there is one. There is one town one house in the town of Drigg which is greater than 30,000. So it's pretty advanced, the filtering. We could keep going. We could say, you know, look for all 2-bedroomed houses that are greater than 30,000 in the town of Drigg. You know, you can mix and match, and that's how you do it. You go to advanced, you go to filter by form, and you basically just select your criteria here based on the criteria that you need. So again, just imagine a real world example where somebody might come into an estate agent and say that they're looking for a certain type of house in a certain address, with a certain number of bedrooms, a certain price, and so on and so forth. This will be one way of filtering through the table to see. Now, when we get to queries, we'll see that that's a much more advanced way of doing it. But this is another way of filtering quickly if you don't want to create a query. And we'll see how queries work, but the principle behind queries is exactly the same as what we're doing here. Now, remember when we spoke about wildcards when we were searching? Wildcards were used when we didn't know, or when we wanted to kind of substitute in letters or numbers in a search term to kind of cover our bets. I'm going to go to advanced, filter by form. I'm sorry, I'm actually in there already. I'm going to right click. You might have a number of different criteria selected here. You can right click and you can on any of them at all, and you can select clear grid. Okay, right click and select clear grid, and it's just going to clear your entire row. Okay, what I'm going to do in the type field is I'm going to type in, I could select bungalow, cottage, and so on and so forth, but instead we're going to use a wildcard in the following way. I'm going to type in star bungalow and then star in the type field. What this is going to do is it's going to look for any, if I click on toggle filter, it's going to look for any house which has bungalow in the type. So it's going to look for bungalow, but it's also going to look for terrace bungalow, bungalow, detached bungalow, and so on and so forth. So let me just give you a look at that again. Like bungalow, what we did is we typed in star bungalow star. Okay, so any number of characters, the word bungalow followed by any number of characters. Don't forget the star means any number of characters. And then we clicked on toggle filter and we saw. So we're trying to kind of cover our bases with looking for any type of house that might have bungalow in it. Detached bungalow, semi-detached bungalow, terrace bungalow, and so on and so forth. Or anything else that has bungalow in it. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, I'm going to go to advanced. I'm going to clear all filters and I'm back to where I was. So this is the table just unfiltered. I'll go back to advanced. I'll go back to filter by form. And let's see, in the town field, what I'm going to do is type the following in, W star. Now hopefully you're going to have figured out by now that this means that it's going to look for any town, if I click on toggle filter, that starts with W and then followed by any number of characters. So let me go back to advanced, filter by form. In other words, you'll see that Access changes your filter to, this is the standard way, but the shorthand way of typing it in is just W star. But Access will change it. So if I click on toggle filter, that's going to look for any town that begins with W and then followed by any number of characters. So don't forget the star means any number of characters. Toggle filter, and there we go. It's looked for, and it's just found Workington, so that means obviously that's the only town in the table that begins with W. So that is filtering by form, and that's as advanced as it gets. That's all we need to do. I'm going to go to advanced, and I'm going to clear all filters, and I'm back to the way I was. So the houses table is now unfiltered again. So the very last thing that we need to look at in this chapter, and then we're done, is quick filters. And you'll be happy to hear that it is very, very quick. It's only one page in the book, and then you can get working on the revision exercises. So I'll see you in a few minutes for the last section of section 5, sorting and filtering, where we look at how to apply quick filters. Hi everyone, in this last section we'll look at how to apply quick filters to a table. We've already seen filtering by form and how to apply filters the standard way by going up to the filter tool in the sort and filter group on the home tab. There is actually a quicker way of applying filters though as well, and it's called quick filters, and we can do it without using any button from the ribbon toolbar. I've got the houses table in the houses database still open, and I'll just draw your attention to the column header of each field or each column, and this will be the same for any table in any database that you have. You'll see a little down arrow beside each title for each column. I'm going to go to the bedrooms column, and I'm going to left click on the down arrow, and you can see that we have we can sort actually very quickly from smallest to largest here as well, and we can also apply filters. Have a look down here and you'll see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 9. These are the only numbers that have been typed in for bedrooms in any record. So that's why we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 9. So I want to look for all bedrooms or all houses that have 4 bedrooms. So rather than painstakingly unticking all of these, what I can do is I can left click on select all to deselect all of them. Clicking on select all when everything is not selected will select everything. If everything is selected, which it will be by default, you can deselect everything by clicking on select all, and then simply click on 4 and then click OK to apply the filter, and that's it. That's all there is to it. You can see now a little logo in the top right hand corner, the filter logo, which means that we're now filtering this table on the bedrooms column or on the bedrooms field. If I left click on that little logo again, I can untick that, click OK, and my filter is turned off. Let's try it for town. I'm going to left click on the down arrow on the column header. I'm going to left click on select all to deselect everything, and I'm going to click on Harrington to select all houses in Harrington. Let's see what we have, and left click OK, and we see that we have one house in Harrington. So left click on the filter button again and click on clear filter from town, and again all of our filters are cleared. So that's great. We can also do the multiple filters that way. We can left click on, I'm going to click on select all and select, let's say, Drigg, and then click OK, and then click on bedrooms and select, actually there is only one 3-bedroomed house in Drigg, so that's all there is, but you could do multiple criteria there for using your quick filters. So to clear the filter, you can either click on the down arrow on the column that you've got filtered and select clear filter from, in this case town, or you can just click on toggle filter to turn it off. Let's go to record, let's see, let's go to record number 13. Let's see, down here, 13, and we have a bungalow in the type. So I'm going to click in bungalow, and I'm going to right click in the type field, and I'm going to show you another way of very quickly filtering. If you right click on any field, it doesn't matter, I just selected bungalow. We can sort this column from A to Z or from Z to A, or we can apply the filter. We can say equals, does not equal, contains, or does not contain. That means we are going to sort this entire column. If I click on equals bungalow, I just get back records which have bungalow in the type field. So click on toggle filter, turn that off again. Let's right click on any of the prices, and I'm going to say less than or equal to 15,000. So I'm looking for houses that are less than 15,000. That's all there is to it. Okay, that's all there is to it. And again, toggle filter. Now what we can do as well for the number ones is if I click on price, again, 8,500, 9,000, 10,000, these are the prices that were put in for the various different records. That's why we're seeing them here. If I click on select all, I can click on number filters here, and that's how I would get access to my equals, does not equal, less than, greater than, and so on and so forth. You can also click on between as well if you wanted to look for houses between a certain price bracket. So for instance, if I wanted to look for houses that were starting at 15,000 but which went for no more than 50,000, that's what you do there. Okay, all I did was right clicked, left click on the down arrow and go to number filters, and I typed it in on the between box. And if you left click on any of these options for number filters, like for instance less than, it asks you to type in the price, your maximum price, and it will look for less than or equal to that price. All right, so that's pretty much it. That's it for sorting and filtering. Look back over the video again, pause bits of it maybe, and definitely go over the revision exercises. The links to the revision exercises are in the description for this video. If you click on the show more on the description for the video, you'll see the links to those revision exercises. I'm just trying to see, yeah, there are 3 revision exercises for sorting and filtering, so you can download them and do them at your own leisure. Let me know how you're getting on with it. Send me an email if you have any questions, and if you have time to fill in the survey that I sent to you as well. It would give me a great idea of where everybody is. I've gotten a few back, but if everybody could get it at some stage within the next week, that would be great, because it will give me a great idea as to what we need to do and how we're doing. So well done everyone. I'll see you for the next video. We've got 3, 6, 7 and 8. We've got 3 pretty big chapters left: queries, forms and reports. These are our 3 other fundamental objects in Access. We've covered tables already, we've looked at sorting and filtering, and we looked at editing as well. Now we need to look at the big 3, which are queries, forms and reports. So for the next video, it's going to take me a while to get that together and to edit it together, but I'll email you all when I have it together. So that will be queries, which will be section 6. So thanks for watching everyone, and as always, email me with any questions you may have.